Hello and welcome back to Echo. We will be continuing where we left off in Carl's route. So let's begin. Wednesday. I open my eyes slowly. The pressure in my head tells me that I didn't get nearly enough sleep. Not really a surprise considering we were both up until 3. And our own ghost adventure a few hours later didn't help things. I hear the doorbell and realize that's what had woken me up. Groaning, I reach under my pillow and feel around for a few seconds before I find my phone. The lump that is Carl under the blankets near my feet doesn't even budge. That was the cool thing about having Carl as a roommate. He slept like a fucking rock. I did pretty much anything I wanted to, and I didn't have to worry about him reporting me to the RA, even something like jerking off. But that's gross, Chase. That only happened a few times, though. The rabbit I'm rooming with now is a different story. Again, the doorbell. I glance at my phone. 10 a.m. I also notice that I have 5 texts and 2 calls. Hey. Sorry, hey. On my way to Carl's house for a surprise party. Make sure you're ready. Hello? That sounds like the reverse of a surprise party. I look down, then nudge some part of Carl with my foot. Judging by the thickness and consistency, I'm pretty sure it's his ass. He grunts. Hmm? What? I think someone's at the door. He doesn't say anything, and a few seconds later, his guttural snores start up again. This time, I really dig my foot in, and he yelps loudly, setting up so fast his horns bang against the wall. He squints against the sunlight pouring in between the blinds, which turns his emerald eyes into an almost mint green. He raises a paw to block the light and looks at me, frowning. What the hell was that? The doorbell goes off again. Door. Carl blinks at me, then slumps back down on his pillow, waving a paw lazily in the air. Let it ring. They'll go away eventually. Huh? Are you sure? He flops his paw around again. Solicitor, trust me. They see this house and make a beeline. No one else visits. I sigh, looking back down at my phone. Oh, look. Leo texted me. That's probably him at the door. I guess my tone of surprise was a little too fake because Carl sits up and eyes me suspiciously. Well, you can go ahead and answer it. You're allowed to touch my door. I sigh a little harder this time. Damn it, Carl. Fine. They're planning a surprise birthday party for you, so go down there, answer the door, and act surprised. What? But Carl's not just confused, he looks genuinely upset. He leans into the corner and pulls up the blanket, like he's pretending to ward off the boogeyman. My birthday isn't until next month. I pause, watching him. I know, but we didn't have much to do, so Leo thought... I slide off the bed and start pulling on my jeans and shirt. Come on, I'll go down with you. Carl covers his face and rubs hard, the short fur on his muzzle blistering out in little spikes around his fingers. I just wanted to relax today, you know? Isn't that every day for you? I laugh to lighten the jab, but Carl just frowns. Well, not with you. I'm starting to wonder if all this isolation has worsened Carl's issues, if he really has gotten the help he needs. That all of his hiding out has just blanketed the problem and let it fester underneath. We can't relax. We're all friends here, Carl. Come on. I pick up his clothes left on the floor from yesterday and toss them at him. I'm at least relieved to see him putting them on, even if it's reluctant. My phone buzzes a few more times, but I ignore it and patiently wait for Carl to finish getting dressed. I think this'll be a lot of fun. He doesn't say anything as he slowly rolls off the bed and pulls on his shorts. Surprise! Happy not really your birthday, bitch. As I open the door, a blast of confetti hits my face along with a loud pop that leaves my ears ringing. TJ, not in the face! Sorry. I slowly pull the papery strings of confetti off from around my ears as the smell of fireworks stings my nose. Where the fuck's Carl? I look behind me and step over to the side of it, revealing Carl, who's got his arms folded tightly, head dipped. Good thing I didn't answer the door, huh? Happy birthday! Leo busts in, carrying 2 bags. Jenna follows, carrying a medium-sized cylindrical cake covered in white frosting. Carl perks a bit when he sees this, his long ears bouncing. Hey, is that red velvet? Yeah, Flynn says it's your favorite. Store-made, though. I would have made it myself if Leo had warned us in advance. Hey, I just came up with this like 2 days ago. Flynn engages Carl with some fake punches while Leo sets the bags down on the table before turning to me with a voice low. Just so you know, your gift is a hornband. Okay, so is everything alright? With Flynn, I mean. Leo glances over at the lizard, quirking the corner of his mouth up towards his ear. Yeah, I think so. It will take a bit of time for him to settle down, but he already sort of apologized while you were gone. So that's a start at least, yeah? I exhale. Okay. Carl, where are your plates? The cupboard. Second door over. Now that Flynn's not shoving him around, Carl's standing awkwardly next to the table, paws fidgeting. So, why are we doing this? It's not until next month. Leo shrugs, frowning. We just wanted to do something, really. I mean, there's not much else to do, you know? You have candles anywhere, Carl? No. No, I don't think so. What's up, man? Haven't had your morning joint yet? Lighten up. Flynn snatches one of Carl's horns and wobbles his head around. Well, it's something Flynn did to Carl a lot. The taboo act of grabbing someone's horn almost makes me gasp out loud. Stop! Carl shoves Flynn off and smooths his beanie down. Well, I guess we'll just have to skip the candles. I told you we should have bought some, Leo. Leo throws his arms out in a shrug. What? Sue me, I thought they would have had everything we need in this mansion. No kidding. You know how places you haven't been to since you were little look smaller when you visit as an adult? TJ's eyes scan the tall ceiling. This place just looks giant. Ha 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 ha. Sure, TJ. Carl huffs out a breath. Why didn't you guys tell me? I still need to take a shower. Quit being a pussy. You always smell like skunk. Now eat some cake. Flynn grabs up the knife while Jenna sets out the plates. The frosting is so thick it practically absorbs the knife. I haven't had cake for breakfast since, like, your last birthday party, Carl. Carl doesn't say anything, instead sitting at the end of the table, paws in his pockets. You guys sure slept in. What were you doing all night? I wait to see if Carl is going to say anything. When it's clear he isn't, I chime in. Video games mostly, and a movie. Fun. It's something we could have all done together, though. Maybe for people who don't have a job to go to next day. I don't think that was a personal dig at Carl, but I don't miss the downward flick of his ears. Flynn plops down a thick slice of cake onto Carl's plate, the inch-deep frosting making a splatting sound. Maybe we should just stick a doobie in there and light it up, huh? Carl, who had perked up at the sight of the cake, shrinks back down with a frown. Just a small slice, please. Flynn eyes TJ, who's holding out his plate, and positions the knife. Smaller, please. Oh my god, loosen up. You're on vacation. Flynn starts cutting the slice even bigger than Carl's was. Hey! Flynn? She says it quietly, but the chill in her voice is clear, and so is the fact that things aren't completely okay. Flynn grunts, then cuts the cake again, this time with a slice that's just an inch wide. That good? Yeah, that's fine. Thanks. TJ moves away to sit down, and the warm glow of our little get-together chills, but Leo chips in with a laugh. Make sure Chase gets a real big chunk. He's getting way too skinny. I don't argue, and Flynn slaps down a large slice on my plate, a little notch in the center where he tried to cut TJ's. I sit in the vacant seat next to Carl, where he's resting a cheek on his paw, methodically shoving the cake into his maw. Everything okay? Hmm? Oh yeah. Yeah, everything's good. I'm about to ask more, but Flynn points across the table at us. Hey Leo, why not tell them about what we saw on the way here? Oh god, no. I look at Leo inquisitively, and even Carl's ears perk up a little bit. What? Leo purses his lips like he's trying to decide whether or not to tell us. Now might not be the best time. Flynn rolls his eyes. Screw it. You know Janice? The waitress? Yeah, the methed out one at the diner. Come on, Flynn. Well, anyway, we were driving up the main street towards the field, you know, with the rusted barbed wire and stuff. TJ's hiding his face with a paw as he stares down hard at his cake. Uh-huh. Well, when we turned around the bend, we saw Janice. He keeps pausing for effect, and it's getting annoying. Okay, what happened? Well, she was all crouched over, staring at the road, and Leo starts driving up to her. I thought she was having, like, a heart attack or something. Yeah, well, as we get closer, we saw that her pants were down. I recoil a little, not having expected that at all. What? Yeah, and when we pulled up next to her, she was grinning at us, and then... Flynn snorts out a laugh, covering his face, like he still can't believe what happened. Can we please not talk about this? It just makes me feel awful. What? Well, uh... She, It's unusual to see Flynn at a loss for words. Well, she just started pissing. What? Why? I don't know. She just smiled at us and started pissing. Heard it first, and then looked down and saw it. Then Leo hit the gas. Flynn sits back, done with his story, not exactly looking pleased with himself. I furrow my brow in confusion. Janice? She was one of the more well-adjusted people living in this town. Leo lets out a cough into the awkward silence. I'm still trying to figure out what exactly happened. Like maybe we missed something? Either way, she seemed fine a few days ago. Well, now I have more reason never to go into that diner again. We sit there awkwardly. I notice Carl is still staring down at his now empty plate. I still can't figure out why Carl is being so quiet, but I see an opportunity to get him to talk. And change the subject. Hey, didn't we have some weird stuff happen, Carl? Carl looks up at me. Huh? You know, the sound we were hearing? Oh, yeah. What kind of sounds? Like bumping sounds and voices. That sounds creepy. Yeah, and Carl just charged down there like he wasn't even scared. That seems dangerous. Carl finally gives a little smile. Eh, well, having a hard head can make you act crazy sometimes. So, did you find anything? No, we weren't sure what it was. I'd watch out. Sounds like you got a pair of hobos banging out in your basement. As we eat, Jenna leans over and starts pulling out presents from one of the bags. Sorry, Carl. We didn't even have time to wrap these up. It's fine. She pulls out a comic book from TJ, a poster from Leo, and a manga from herself. I know you hate these things, but I think you should give it a chance. I'll take a look. Thanks. And then, this horn band from Chase. She pulls out an orange and black band from the bag. The colors of my school. Carl's former school. Oh. He seems to be struggling to find something to say. Thanks. I didn't know people still wore those. Leo suddenly shifts against the counter, realizing that he had to explain my present. Well, they're making a comeback. We saw a couple of rams and then a stag that had like 5 of them on. Carl glances at me and I can tell he probably knows that I didn't get it for him. Mainly because of the university logo, and also because we made fun of them together a few years back about how bro-y they were. I don't know if I should feel embarrassed or not, but my cheeks burn anyway. I promise myself to get him something thoughtful the next time we go into Peyton. Yeah, well, here's mine. Flynn reaches into his pocket and pulls out something small, hidden in his palm. He hands it to Carl, who looks confused for a second before the expression turns to one of interest. Wow. It's a small metal rectangular box with 2 sharp points jutting out the top. I lean in for a closer look and realize those parts are horns. There's a complex, elegant design of a ram's face etched onto the front of the box. Carl presses the thumb against one of the horns and pushes it. The top flicks up and over, and that's when I realize it's a lighter. Saw it when I was over at the reservation. Made me think of you. He reaches out and traces a finger along the horns and clicks it back shut. Thanks, Flynn. Yeah, now you look a little badass when you decide to get blazed. Yeah. Oh, sorry. We all jump and look over at TJ, who's looking at the floor, his plate gone from the table. Flynn starts to laugh but catches himself. Don't worry about it. They probably got 100 of those plates. Carl, where's your broom? He doesn't say anything and we look at where Carl had been sitting a few seconds before, but he's gone and so is another portion of the cake. Huh, where'd he go? Hey, check between the wall and the fridge. I think that's where I remember seeing it. TJ gets down on his knees and starts picking up the large pieces. I look back at Carl's spot, then up the stairs. I'll be right back. Bathroom. I'm not sure why the deck is the first place I look, but it's where I find him. I watch him through the paneled curtains for a moment. He's sitting on a little swing set, facing out towards the glaring bright desert. There's an empty plate with a fork on it next to him. He's also toying with the lighter Flynn gave him, flipping it open and close a few times, holding it up to the light. Smoke wafts up from the lap, where I assume he's holding a joint. Quietly, I slide open the glass door and step out onto the wooden balcony. The deck is, of course, nice and big, stretching around half the house. I see Carl's long ears twitch at the sound, and he lowers the lighter down into his lap, but doesn't turn around. Hey. He does turn around then, and smiles. Shit, I thought you were Leo or something. Would that have been a bad thing? I look around and just decide to sit next to him on the swing. He just had pulled me back into the party. I look over at him. He's looking down at his lighter, turning it over in his paws, the hoof portion of his fingers making clacking sounds against the metal. Those things always fascinated me. It seems like it should make holding things more difficult, but he manages just fine. Are you okay? Carl huffs out a chuckle and leans his head back against the cushioned backing of the seat. That's a great question. Everyone's always asking me. You just seem really upset is all. Carl's demeanor is a lot more relaxed now, obviously. As is to emphasize that thought, he takes another hit off his joint and holds his breath for a moment, then lets it out. The pungent smell envelops me. I just don't like being around so many people. You know that. Well, yeah, but you were fine around them these past few days. Carl rubs his forehead hard with the paw holding the joint, using his palm. Yeah, well, things weren't about me then. Just felt a little bit put on the spot. He coughs. That shit just gets me nervous. Like, can't we just hang out and not make it about me? I don't say anything, annoyed again that I just can't grasp what he means. Am I making you nervous? Carl finally does look at me. Then, his massive horns sway towards me. No, you never do, Chase. I do look away at that point, almost feeling self-conscious at the way he opened up to me. And thanks for trying to get me to talk earlier. Just makes me feel guilty though, the way people try and include me in things and then I just disappoint them. But you just don't really force me into shit. Everyone feels like I need to do something. Why can't I just decide that for myself? I push against the ground, making the swing sway a little, trying to think of the right thing to say. I mean, it's good to do stuff, right? You can't just sit around doing nothing forever. I guess. It's just that I worry about it myself. I don't need other people doing it for me. I lean back in the swing for a bit, looking out over the desert. Man, I'm hungry. I wish I brought more cake with me. Not enough incentive to go back in? Not yet. I could go and get you some. He smirks at me. You one of those fat fetishists, just feeding me garbage so my moves get bigger? You don't have moves. I felt them. Yeah, can't keep your paws off me. You have a thing for my fat ass? I look him over, as if studying his figure. Hey. He covers his chest. Well, I do actually like bigger guys, and there's nothing wrong with a little extra weight, especially if it's carried well. He looks at me expectingly. Which you do. Sweet. You know, you seem like you'd be a pretty dope boyfriend. Just feed me cake all day and then get off on the results. I'm about to shoot back with something snarky when a stumbling figure catches my eye. Out on the sun-baked asphalt on the road in front of Carl's house, I see a thin figure. A weasel, I think, running up the road. He stops, panting, paws on his knees before he looks over his shoulder again. His whole body slumps. Then, like the air's gone out of him, like he's giving up on something. He turns around to look back up the road. He's far away, but even from here I can tell he's talking. Carl looks over at my silence, then down the road where I'm looking. Is that Duke? Yeah, that's him. Must be on something. He usually is. Duke finally turns around and starts to cower, his paws up in surrender. His lips are still moving, rapidly, reminding me of someone who's trying to say as much as they can before something cuts them off. What do you think? I trail off as Duke suddenly whips his head around to look up at us, then starts pointing up at our balcony. Uh-oh, let's hope the doors are locked. Carl's chuckling, obviously, finding the whole thing hilarious, but I'm a bit more on edge. I don't really feel like he's high. Duke's movements are a lot more focused, more precise, like he's all there. And for some reason, it feels like he's looking directly at me. I furrow my brow, watching as the weasel turns towards us, sticking a foot out to take a step. The sound of the sliding door wrenching open nearly makes me jump out of my skin. What the hell are you guys doing? Jenna marches over to the swing set to stand in front of us, paws on her hips. Whoa, what's up, Jenna? Carl leans back in the swing, elbows over the back, smiling. The fox's eyes narrow as she sees the joint. Did you forget who this party was for? Carl shrugs and rubs his forehead again. Leo, I'm guessing? No, we spent all day yesterday getting this ready for you, Leo especially. Now get back downstairs and have your party. Carl sits quietly for a moment, then glances at me. No, I don't think I will. He's not smiling anymore, his face expressionless, head turned back towards Jenna, but his eyes are wandering off towards the side, looking at the sky. Why not? Because I didn't fucking ask for it. I pretend to look at my phone. What, a party? I'm so sorry, we were trying to be thoughtful, Carl. Maybe we should just forget you next time, huh? Jenna, it's okay, we're just hanging out. She ignores me. I see the skin inside Carl's ears and around his nose turning red. Since he was a kid, Carl didn't deal well with conflict, usually running away the first chance he got. No, this was for Leo. I just don't understand why we couldn't do something that didn't involve... Sorry, Carl, but that's life. Sometimes you have to come out of your room. Sometimes you have to be the center of attention, and sometimes, God forbid, you have to talk to people. Well, what if I just want to stay up here and hide? Who gives a fuck? The look on Jenna's face is approaching contempt. Are you kidding me? This is difficult for you? Jenna? Again, she ignores me. I might as well just be talking to a statue, or maybe I'm the statue that she isn't paying attention to. I feel like something must have happened downstairs. This isn't like her. You never realize how good you have it, Carl. If you even had a taste of what I went through. I can practically feel the heat radiating off of Carl's body. He looks down at his lap. Are you blaming me for that? His voice breaks. We all have our problems. Some easier than others. Carl glares at her, trying to be angry, but I can tell it's not working. You don't know what kind of shit I have to deal with. Like being rich? No, it's like myself. Oh, how terrible. The one thing you have full control over. No, that's so fucking unfair. The quaver in Carl's voice doesn't exactly sound convincing, and the pot doesn't seem to be helping as I can see his fingers shaking. Just like life. Carl's face is bewildered. What the fuck did I do to you, Jenna? Did I say something wrong earlier? Out of habit, he lifts the joint to his muzzle with his shaking fingers, but then flinches as Jenna steps forward. I guess he thought she was just gonna slap him or something, but instead, she just reaches forward and plucks the joint out from his grasp, right before flicking it back into his face. It hits his nose and Carl flinches again. Without a word, Jenna spins on her heel and opens the door even harder than she did the first time. I'm stunned. I haven't seen Jenna that angry since she was in middle school, and definitely never at Carl. Carl doesn't say anything, instead rubbing at his nose, leaning back in the seat. The insides of his ears are still flushed, a deep red. What the fuck was that? I don't know. Something must have happened. That wasn't Jenna. I'll ask Leo about it later. I didn't do anything. Did I? I shrug, no words coming to mind. We sit in silence a while, listening to the train horns. Looking down, I see the joint still smoking up from the planks on the floor. Slowly, I lean over and pick it up before holding it out to Carl. He takes it and looks at it for a second. Raising his paw, he pauses, then takes a drag before flicking it off the side of the balcony. He lets his head sag, his big horns dipping towards the floor as he closes his eyes. Slowly, I put my arm around his shoulder. He leans into me and doesn't pull away. So, it's over with Leo, huh? Carl waves his controller around like it's gonna help him avoid my 3 spike throw, almost knocking over his beer bottle. It hits him anyway, and he gives a little grunt of annoyance. I grin and consider letting up on him because he's clearly drunk. Seems that way. He hasn't really talked to me much since I got here. I leave out the part that's probably my fault. Carl lets out a weird little huh sound as I punch his character, as if he were the one getting punched instead. Well, that sucks. Does it suck? He's looking intently at the screen. Still, I get the feeling he's not paying full attention because he's getting easier and easier to nail his character with my combos. I don't really know yet. It's been 3 years. Maybe it just hasn't kicked in yet? Takes that long to kick in for you? When Tanya dumped me, I felt like I couldn't get out of bed for a week. Oh god. I remember that. Back in high school, when we were both 16. Didn't she get you into pot? Carl lets out a little snort again as I kick his demon character in the chin. Yep, and thanks Satan for it. I don't know how else I would have gotten over her. Anyway, not to be a dick, but you're better for it. He surprises me with a spin kick that sends my angel wolf character flying across the screen. I focus back on the game and throw a barrage of punches into his demon character's face, sending blood splashing onto the screen. Oh? Well, you know. It's just hard to talk to you and Leo when you guys are being all lovey and shit. His words are mushy, starting to bleed into one another. His character throws a flaming spear at my angel, which I easily deflect with my shimmering shield. I extend my wings and swoop in to throw my lightning bolts. Well, no one really tried to talk to us when we were together. It was like we were making you guys uncomfortable. I watch his demon fly in the air, surrounded by a glowing white circle. Looking over, I see Carl frowning. No, I don't think so. His demon spreads his own much spikier wings and hovers up from the circle. He reaches up into the sky, and a red lightning bolt slams down into my character. You guys were just kind of self-absorbed. You didn't call me once after you guys started dating. And here I was thinking Carl never liked conflict. That sentence carried a lot of weight, and a lot of years behind it. I'm not about to argue with him, though, especially after what happened with Jenna. That lightning bolt that was for my wolf angel, and his demon flies up the screen and flips us off as winner is displayed. Well, there was college. Carl stretches, leaning back into the giant beanbag chair we're sitting on. I don't remember much of college anymore. He lays back in the chair and looks over at me. By the way, I have a job interview on Friday. My eyes widen. Don't act so surprised, asshole. He hangs on that last word with a lisp. You're drunk, but that's awesome. Where at? A print shop. Be a production assistant. Well, that sounds decent. Yeah, parents told me they'd buy me a car to get there. It's in Peyton, of course. But anyway, Flynn told me he'd give me a ride to the interview, but since you're here... He gives me a lazy, sidelong glance. While I usually wouldn't have an issue with it, the thought of how hard I'd been procrastinating my school project is starting to make my stomach churn. But hey, how often will I get to hang out with Carl when the break is over? I'd love to take you. You know, we were gonna go out and do stuff tomorrow. Why don't we change your look? Get you new clothes or something for your interview? He keeps smiling. Sounds great. So, what's it like, kissing a dude? I let out a surprised laugh. What? You know, is it like more... He wiggles his paws uselessly in the air. I don't know. You kissed a girl, right? Samantha, right? I think so, but that was like 7th grade. So was it different? I laugh at him again. Pretty sure it's just like kissing a girl, man. You sure? I feel like kissing different species would be even more different. Maybe. I've always sort of wanted to know what it's like. He says it slowly, deliberately, trying not to trip over his words. Yeah? I say it even slower, because I think I know what Carl's getting at. I can see how guys can be sexy. Carl, are you coming out to me? He rolls over onto his stomach, facing me fully now. That's a good question. Maybe we can answer it. I'm a little buzzed, but not drunk. Are you asking if you can kiss me? He gazes at me lazily through lidded eyes, looking about ready to fall asleep. Only if you want. I'd been asked to be the experiment of a few guys in the past, in college, and I'd always said no, but Carl. You don't want to take advantage of him. But do we? No, no. What did I pick the last time around? Eh, if you want. Carl's eyes widen slightly, then he slowly gets to his hands and knees and crawls towards me. I was gonna stand up, but it looks like he just wants to do this on the beanbag. Uh, I lean back into the bag, sinking into it a bit more. Carl kneels at my feet, looking unsure. Is this right? Yeah. Do you want me to stand? Before I know it, he's crawled up on top of me. His presence is heavy and warm, and I lean back, feeling myself get hard despite the awkwardness of it all. He looks down at me, into my eyes, and I feel myself blush. Sorry, is this okay? Yeah, it's fine. He leans down, pauses, then leans in all the way, and I feel his soft, wide muzzle against mine. At the same time, I feel one of his paws slide behind my head. It's different than kissing Leo or Samantha way back in middle school. Carl's muzzle is big and more blunt, his lips softer and more malleable. It covers the entire front of my muzzle, his beard tickling my neck and cheeks. I expect him to pull back quickly, but he doesn't, keeping his paw behind my head and pressing deeper into my skin. His other paw holds onto my upper arm. I open my eyes and see that his are closed. He hunches over me, closer, and I feel myself start to respond, reaching up to wrap my arm around his broad back. He huffs in response, and then I feel his lips part, and his tongue flicks against my lips. I start to open them, but that's when I feel the beanbag shift, and Carl slides to the side. Somehow he manages to slip and fall on the wobbly beanbag, his mouth sliding sloppily off mine as he slumps down on top of me. I let out a grunt as his weight comes to rest on my chest. He chuckles and I can feel the spasms all the way through my own body. Hehe, oops. I laugh too, then wait for a while, but he doesn't move. Um, Carl, you can get off now. He doesn't say anything. I'm about to say something else when I hear a deep snore right next to my ear. Carl? His response is another guttural snore. I shift under him for the first time, realizing how actually fucking heavy he is. It's not exactly a bad feeling. His presence is enveloping and warm, and the beanbag under me is offering enough cushion so I'm not getting crushed. The snoring isn't bad either. It's almost comforting as his breath tickles the hairs inside my ear. His big belly squishes up against my torso like a warm sandbag. My eyes are heavy and, slowly, I wrap my arms around his back. I haven't had anyone to sleep with in years, and now I realize how much I miss the feeling. Slowly, the dim lights in Carl's room fade out as I fall asleep to his comforting, rhythmic snores. Stop! I heave for breath as I chase TJ down the dusty street, trying not to pop the water balloons that I'm holding with my claws. You always chase me! TJ's whining again, but I don't care. He's always the funniest one to hit. His crazy speed made it all the more rewarding. Even though he's a grade lower, he could outrun me easily. I can still keep up with him though, since he's running around houses and mailboxes. My 4th grade brain is easily able to figure out ways to cut him off. It's not long before I have him backed up against the back of the Benally's trailer home. He does a stupid dance where he's running back and forth, covering his head. Stop! I stick my tongue out to the side of my muzzle, following him back and forth with the balloon I have cocked behind my head. Hold still. No! He finally curls up into a ball against the house, crouching in the dirt in his blue swim trunks. I stop. Well, it's not fun if you're not going to try to run. He looks up at me between his fingers. You always throw it too hard. Well, if you... He suddenly darts to the right, but I'm ready, hurling the balloon right at his back. It doesn't explode though, instead smacking against his spotted back with a wet splat. Ow! He skids to a stop, then immediately bends and scoops up the balloon, grinning at how the tables have turned. Uh-oh. I start jogging backwards as TJ heaves back the balloon, but I don't have anything to worry about. In his excitement, he grips the balloon too hard, and I can see how his claws dimple the rubber before it explodes mid-throw. Water showers his head, and dust kicks up as the dark spots speckle the ground, just like his fur, I think. He gasps the way cats do whenever they get any water on them, and I point and laugh. I can tell he's deciding whether or not to sulk and cry, and I hold my breath because I don't want the game to end. I think I win him over because he smiles and starts to laugh too. That always happens to me. Well, don't hold it so hard. I wasn't. Yeah, you were. I saw. I see TJ's ears perk, and he looks over towards the front of the house. What? But that's when I hear it too. Doing with those water balloons? Don't touch me. I'm not touching you. Just give me the fucking balloons. Clint and Jeremy. Carl must have followed us, and they saw him out the window. My gut drops to my feet, and I feel like I'm gonna pee myself. TJ covers his mouth, and I see tears starting to brim in his eyes. I think fast. Go run and get Leo. He can help. Before I know it, TJ's tearing across the backyards of the houses up the block where Leo's filling water balloons. At least that's where I hope he's going. Slowly, I pat around the house, peeking around the corner to the front yard. Carl's standing with his fists clenched, staring hard, trying to look defiant, but I can tell he's terrified. Multicolored water balloons are scattered around his hooves. He must have been carrying them all in his white tank top. He always wore a shirt when he did water games. What's the matter, cumpface? We're not gonna hurt ya. Heh, right. Jeremy laughs stupidly at Clint and bends down to pick up a purple water balloon. Clint starts circling around Carl, and the ram follows him with his muzzle, nostrils flaring. As he's looking the other way, Jeremy throws a water balloon right in Carl's face. Following the smack of rubber on muzzle, the balloon explodes, showering all three of them in water. Carl whimpers and covers his face. I grip the side of the house, knowing I should do something, but my legs aren't moving. Leave me alone. Carl's doing a good job of not crying, but he's about to. Hey, we're just playing. Clint leans down to pick up another water balloon. That's when Carl makes a break for it, dodging around the bend over Clint towards the street. Clint's too fast though, and the ring-tailed cat instantly reaches out and catches Carl by one of his horns. He's riding him for a second, jumping on Carl's back before using his long tail to trip the ram up. Carl lands on his stomach with a loud grunt as Clint sits on his back, holding onto his horns. Cunt! He stepped on my tail! Clint grabs both of Carl's horns and leans back so far that I can hear his spine cracking. Carl screams in pain and reaches for his horns. With his face planted at the sky, I can see the tears rolling down his face now. The one eye I can see is open wide, and I think he sees me, but still, my legs won't move. Hey! Leo jogs up the street, looking right at Clint. The ringtail sneers, but drops Carl back to the ground and stands up as Leo gets closer. The fuck do you want, Beaner? Clint's wary, his casual demeanor more tense now that Leo's here. I sigh with relief. Carl sits up and quickly rubs his face before standing and running back up the street, his hooves clopping loudly all the way. Leo doesn't even look at him, his eyes on Clint. I said, what do you want? You no understand? Honestly, Leo might not have understood. He'd only been here less than a year. Still, Leo doesn't say anything, his jaw working, and I wonder if he's imagining chewing on Clint's neck. You're fucking crazy. Let's go, Jeremy. Clint is afraid of Leo, and he'd left us alone ever since the wolf had moved in, at least for the most part. Even though they're both 13, Leo is a head taller and almost twice as wide. Leave him alone. Clint stops. What? Leave them alone. Forever. Clint looks hesitant, obviously not wanting to stay, but unable to leave now that Leo had thrown out a challenge, not in front of Jeremy. Or what? Or... He thinks for a second. It's no good for you. Painful. I hadn't been paying attention to Jeremy, but I see a sudden movement from behind Leo, followed by another smack and a splash. Leo arches his back, hissing at the pain of how hard Jeremy had thrown it. The wolf whirls around, one paw rubbing at his back as he snarls at Jeremy, who points and laughs. Ha! Wetback! He doesn't see Clint running up at him from behind. Leo! I yelp out his name, then he does turn around only to catch a sucker punch right into the stomach. I can hear the thud along with all the air going out of him all the way from here. Leo stumbles back and stops with his paws on his knees, gasping. I wince and cover my eyes only to pull them back down immediately and see Jeremy leaping on Leo from behind and biting his ear. Leo screams in pain, but immediately twists and slams his knees into Jeremy's crotch. Jeremy lets go and lets out his own scream, which Leo puts an end to when he grabs the fox and swings him around by the shirt. Jeremy's forward momentum is brought to a halt as he slams headfirst into the oak tree. He goes down. Clint's scared, his eyes wide as he looks from Leo to Jeremy to the front door. Leo doesn't give him a chance though, running forward and hitting him with a tackle that slams them both to the ground. I think I hear Clint start to beg, but Leo's fists start to rain down on his face. Now all I can hear are crunchy, fleshy thuds as punch after punch hit Clint's face. And I can hear Leo too. ¿Quieres pelear? No me jodas! The sounds Clint make go from snarling to screaming to gurgling, and I cover my ears because it sounds so terrible. Again, I feel like I should stop this. Leo looks like he's in a trance with how focused he is on hurting Clint. But again, I'm too terrified. I run in the direction Carl went. I need to tell him I'm sorry, that I should have helped him somehow, but that I was so scared. Even though this road doesn't lead to his house, I somehow get there. The sky is red and orange, even though it was noon just a few minutes ago. For some reason, Carl's house is bigger, much bigger than it should be. The architecture is pointier, different. I walk around it, slowly looking for Carl. Looking down, I see hoof prints. They're too big to be Carl's, but I follow them anyway. They lead around the back of the house, right up to the wooden set of cellar doors. I reach out to them, even though I feel something terrible welling up inside my stomach. I pull on them, but they're stuck, as if welded shut somehow. A window well next to the doors draws my attention, and I get down onto my knees, then on my stomach, as I look intently through the window. There are little clear spots on the glass, little paw prints breaking through a layer of old dust. The paw prints of children. The room is almost pitch black, but the red light behind me illuminates some of the cement ground through the windows. Behind the paw prints, I see something long and spindly crawl across the ground. I don't know where I am at first as I open my eyes, but the dim Lucha Lobo lamp tells me. Laying there for a while, I realize that Carl's no longer on top of me. My face fur is a little wet and my nose is stuffy. I look around thinking that Carl probably went back to his bed, but he's not there either. He must be getting a drink or something. A dull, far-off thud makes me open my eyes again. I listen carefully, starting to worry that the sound came from downstairs. Again, I hear it, and it makes me jump this time. Shit, is it happening again? I hear a voice coming from the same area directly below me. It's a lot more muffled, but I can still tell it's a voice, muttering and cursing. Carl? My voice sounds weak and warbly in the heavy silence of the dark house. The scuffling sounds below me stop for a second, though they start up again, more vigorous now. Slowly, I sit up, listening to the whispering and thumping beneath me. My mind flashes to Duke, the weasel's foot forward, his eyes locked on me. Finally, the anxiety gets to me and I stand up, walking as quietly as I can from the room into the hallway. The kitchen is dark, and I move over to the front door to check and see if it's locked. It is, so I move over to the stairs and look down into the inky blackness, almost afraid to turn on the lights. Nothing jumps out at me when I do, but the light is actually making me more afraid, knowing that it will light up anything that's down there. I move down the stairs as quietly as I can, every creak making my fur bristle. The scraping sound is louder now, and so is the voice. I'm almost positive that it's Carl, but I can't be sure. I call out his name again, but it's almost a whisper in my throat. I clasp my paws together against my chest, eyes flickering to each doorway as I slowly move down the hall, not wanting Carl to get the jump on me. When I finally get to the crawlspace door, I can pick up a rhythmic thumping along with the scrapes, and the muttering is much clearer now. Buried inside. Help! I shiver. Carl, this isn't funny. Again, my voice is weak and unconvincing. He probably didn't even hear me. Another thud almost shakes the house, and I jump. What the hell is he doing? Is it even Carl? Did whoever it is down there murder him and is now in the process of burying his body? The fear is too much, and I know I have to open the door again and put an end to this stupid prank, or I'm gonna call 911 and make everything worse. With each step I take towards the doors, it feels like the air gets more electrified, the charge making my fur stand on end all over my body. As soon as I touch the tiny knob to the door and start to pull it open, though, the sound stops. I freeze, listening hard. I get the feeling that whatever is down there is doing the exact same thing. Then I hear a series of thuds as whatever it is runs at the door. I fall back and I can't help myself from shrieking, landing on my ass and scooting backwards with my paws and feet. The door flies open and I'm face to face with the dusty Carl. Carl, what the fuck? I scream at him, my chest heaving as I clutch it, like I'm about to have a heart attack. He looks confused, looking around, then back at me, breathing hard himself. I was just... I wait, but he doesn't say anything. There's white dust all over his horns and on his shoulders. Just what? I yell at him again, and he jumps. I'd feel bad if I wasn't so freaked out. I sleepwalk sometimes, okay? I debate whether or not to accept that as an answer, but he looks confused enough that it just might be true. You scared the shit out of me. Carl moves out of the crawl space, leaning over to brush his head off. You scared the shit out of me. I didn't know where I was. I slowly get to my feet, still breathing heavily. What is that stuff? What are you doing in there? Just dust. It's dirty down there. Again, I feel like he's leaving stuff out. I try to look past him into the crawl space, but he closes the door. Come on, I need a smoke after that. I stand back to let him pass, tempted to open the door again. He grabs my arm when he sees me looking, though. Seriously, dude, let's go. I don't really want to be alone in this house right now, please. I look at him and I can tell he's definitely freaked out. I would be too if I woke up in that crawl space. Yeah, let's go. Slowly, I follow him, looking back at the door before flicking off the light. Thursday. Are you sure you don't want to come down? Carl lays spread out on his bed, game controller clutched in both paws that are thrown over his head against the pillow. He offers me a glance, but returns back to his game. This time, it's a new looking open world fantasy, and honestly, I'd much rather be watching him play it than doing homework. I just don't want to distract him, man, and you know how much help I am. I frown. Well, it would be more for company than anything. Don't you want to look through that stuff too? Carl screws up his muzzle, as if contemplating. I've seen most of it, dude. I wrapped up half the stuff in there. Well, alright. I pause, but he doesn't say anything. It's clear he's not interested, so I have no reason to nag him. Still, it sort of hurts my feelings. As I make my way into the basement alone, I realize another reason why I would have appreciated Carl's company. The house is as creepy as fuck. I've always been a bit of a pussy when it comes to scary things. I mean, once after I'd seen a scary movie about possession, I'd been afraid to go to sleep for weeks, mainly because my nightmares can seem so real. It took almost a month for me to manage it without the lights on, and I was 18 at the time. And now, I mentally kick myself for remembering that movie while I'm down in Carl's creepy basement alone. Once I get to the crawl space, I do an awkward half-run to the flood lamp that probably would have made Carl laugh his ass off. The crawl space really is fucking creepy. I imagine Carl sleepwalking down here, which I'm pretty sure is what happened last night, then waking up alone in the dark. I can understand why he was so freaked out. The sight of the plastic tarp on the bottom of the steps brings back memories of the tarantula as well. Shit. Now I have a good reason not to go down here at all. I still don't know if what I saw was real or was some kind of hypnogenic hallucination that my mind always seems to be so keen to throw at me. I scan the tarp, its white and clean surface free of any insects as far as I can tell. I shudder again before making my way slowly down the steps, eyes still darting around. Come on, you idiot. This is ridiculous. When I was younger, I used to have a problem where I'd wake up in the middle of the night and see spiders crawling up my walls. I'd scream, and one of my parents would come running in to tell me nothing was there. My dad talked to his psychologist friend who told him it was normal, so we didn't do anything about it. Over time, the hallucinations stopped. They didn't come back until I took the night shift near my university campus. After that, I started to get sleep paralysis and, about half the time, spiders are involved. My feet crunch their way across the tarp, back towards the tubs that I know are marked history. I stare at them for a second, remembering that 2 days ago the tubs had been turned to have their sides facing the entrance to the crawlspace. I clearly remember seeing them that way over Carl's shoulder, right before I saw the tarantula. Now they're turned so that their ends are pointed to the front. I frown, but the prickling feeling on my neck doesn't feel good, especially with me being alone down here. So I shove that to the back of my mind and grab the end of the tub so that I can start dragging it back towards the stairs. Sitting down and taking the lids off, I start sifting through the contents. Again, something isn't right. There are a few empty wrappers lying around among the artifacts, as if someone had unwrapped a few trinkets before taking them. I wonder if Carl decided to take a few things. God knows why he would. I remove those wrappers, 3 in all, and set them to the side before digging further in. This particular tub has a divider in it. As I start unwrapping things, I realize that one side is for the harder artifacts, like keys or knitting needles. The other was mostly paper items like photos and documents. On the paper side, I see a thick folder labeled Biography of James Hendricks. My eyes widen. Now that would come in handy. Is this the book, or... As I open it, I find a bunch of loose papers inside. While it's clearly copy paper, it's old enough in its own right. I move back down the tarp so that I can start spreading the documents out, not wanting to lose anything. I'm breathing heavily at this point, hardly believing my luck. There are hundreds of pages and I hardly know where to start. After a while, I begin to deduce what this is. Someone's been trying to write a book on James Hendricks. From what I can tell, it was Carl's mother, Trisha. Some of the documents were typed up on the typewriter, so this might have been started as far back as the 80s. Getting married, having kids, and running a company probably slowed things down just a little bit. I grin. While it's too bad that this might have never seen publication, Carl's mom has no idea how much she's saved my ass. On top of that, she's got it all organized. One divider indicates James Hendricks, while another marks Emma Hendricks, who I assume is James's wife. A few of them are filled with several names: Marilyn Smith, John Begay, Yana Begay, Christopher Leeway. Finally, the last section of the binder is filled with dividers indicating dates: 1825 to 1852, 1852 to 1875, 1875 to 1878, and 1878 to 1891. I start with that, my fingers shaking a bit with excitement as I start poring over Trisha's meticulous timeline, using my phone to take notes. James was born 1825 to an immigrant family from Erie. His family faced oppressive prejudice from the day they arrived in the country. Despite this, they managed to make a living, with James's father becoming a plumber, a profession that mainly dealt with lead. His father, Martin, was abusive, even more so than was acceptable for the time, and James suffered greatly for it. The mysterious death of his 5-year-old sister, Martha, led many of the townspeople to suspect murder on the father's part. But this was never proven. James left home at the age of 15. He told his remaining sibling, Jane, that if he were able, he'd find a place for both of them to stay to escape their father. Not much is known about James Hendricks between 1840 and 1849, with Trisha assuming that he simply job-hopped around the tri-state area. What is known is that James set out west in 1850 during the gold rush. Luck struck quickly, with James finding gold in a quartz deposit in 1852. The first person James confided in about the find was his only friend, John Begay. John was a native Desert Fox and would go on to become James's business partner. This comes as a bit of a surprise due to James's many recorded instances of prejudice against the natives. With John's help, James officially laid claim to the mine before turning it into a business. While Echo was originally a small camp of less than 20 people, it became a mini boomtown. Over 2,000 people arrived within the next 3 years. Things went well for James after that. He became rich, built a mansion in Echo, and lived off the mine's seemingly endless flow of gold. He sent Jane, who was married with a large family at that point, a yearly sum of money. Meanwhile, no money was sent to his parents, who were living in deep poverty. He married Emma, a girl half his age, in 1860. They had 5 children: James, Thomas, Genevieve, Carol, and Martha. Things changed for James in 1875, though, when he was accused of sodomy with John Begay. The land being lawless at the time, John Begay was hanged by the locals. James was never convicted of the crime, likely because of his strong influence in the town. However, the ostracism grew to be too much, and in 1878 he left his family to live in solitude on the West Coast. He quietly started a moderately successful ice cream business in the 1880s. It didn't grow into a regional juggernaut it is today until it was taken over by the grandson, Peter. He died there in his villa in 1891 from an unusual insect bite. I rubbed my eyes and checked the time. 3 hours have passed already and it's late in the afternoon. Apparently, Carl's game is so good he hadn't even bothered to come down and check on me. I sigh and gather up a few of the items: a pocket watch, what looks like a nugget of gold, and what I think is a stamp with a crest on it. I'll need to take pictures outside considering how dim it is down here. I lay the items down on the adobe sidewalk that leads up to Carl's house. Deciding that it will make a suitable background, I start taking pictures. Hours after the discovery of the binder, I'm still relieved. I was really starting to worry with how little time I had left, but Trisha's research has saved me hours of time. In fact, She'd pretty much laid everything out for me. I nearly jump out of my skin and spin around, still clutching my camera. Behind me, I can see the window still, rattling from the force of whatever had knocked on it. It's a basement window. In a window well, though. I can't see anything through it. It's too dark. I stare for a while, frowning. What the fuck was Carl doing? Did he go back downstairs and somehow see me through the window and decide to scare me? I slowly gather the artifacts back up and place them in my bag, keeping an eye on the window as I do. If he wanted to pull that shit, then I could play at that game too. The only problem is that Carl isn't in the basement. From what I can gather, it was the window next to the crawl space that was hit. Looking out, I can see the spot where I must have been standing. The chills return, and I shiver as I move back to the crawl space. It had to have been Carl, though. I don't get why he wouldn't have stayed down here until I came back. I gather everything back up and start to place them back into their tub, in the same order that I had taken them out. And that's when I notice something, at the very bottom of the tub, a plastic baggie that had been opened with its contents spilled out. I set down the binder which I had been about to put away and reach in, sifting through the spilled papers. They're newspaper clippings from the town of Peyton. They're incredibly old, and I can't imagine this is the best way to preserve them. Either way, the fashion in which they're carelessly spread out across the bottom of the tub makes me wince. I don't remember leaving it this way, and it makes me feel sick that I could have damaged any of it. Slowly, I push all the clippings back into the baggie, making sure to seal it tight after I do. From what I can see, nothing's been visibly damaged. I sigh before putting everything back in the tub and shutting it with a lid, making sure it's sealed tight. It's a shame that it's been so difficult for Carl's family to set up the museum. From the looks of it, some of the stuff isn't going to last much longer without proper preservation. Finally, I drag the tubs back and subconsciously take note of exactly how I left them before heading back upstairs. When I get upstairs, though, Carl is asleep. His controller is still above his head, clutched in his paws as if he had fallen asleep the moment I'd left. On the screen, his character is immobile, standing in the middle of some hut. A single NCP stands in front of him, walking back and forth. Every now and then it stops in front of him, exclaiming, "What are you doing in my hut?" I reach out and place a paw on his shoulder, and he immediately opens his eyes, snorting loudly. He sits up and rubs at his face, snorting again as he breathes deeply. "Did you go downstairs?" "Huh? What happened?" It's almost funny how utterly confused he looks. If he's acting, he's doing a damn good job of it. "I heard some noises downstairs. I thought it was you." "No, I don't think so." "Things were moved around too." He takes a deep breath before blowing it out. "I told you, man, this place is haunted. I wasn't joking." We both look at each other for a moment. Finally, Carl breaks the awkward silence. "So, how'd it go? Aside from the ghosts." "It went alright, just 3 hours and a bunch of research." He looks at me blearily. "Aw shit, seriously? I was gonna come down after a while, I just..." "Fell asleep?" "Yeah. Anyway, we're supposed to go out today." "Really?" "Yeah, remember? You said so a few days ago." Carl looks around. "Well, what do you want to do?" I think. "Don't you have an interview tomorrow?" "Don't remind me." Carl picks up his controller again and I frown. "Well, I was thinking we could go out and maybe give you a new look." Now Carl frowns, clicking away at the controller. "Like what?" "Well, your clothes for one. Do you have any dress clothes?" You don't? Seriously. Have you ever had an interview before?" "Well, yeah, it's just that I've, grown out of them." "Uh-huh. Well, we'll definitely need you to get some of those." I look at his beard thoughtfully. "Maybe we should give you a more clean-cut look?" Carl doesn't say anything and instead goes on frowning. I put a paw down on his controller, forcing him to pause. "Come on, it could be fun. You can't stay in this house. in this room forever. He finally does look at me, then his expression kind of sad. What's wrong? Carl looks away. He stands up slowly, his joints popping. Nothing. If it makes you happy, then why not? Great. Just so you know, I'd rather just play some video games with you. It's tempting. Just watching Carl play is a lot of fun, what with his style and commentary, but this is more important. I really want to help him out. Maybe later tonight. Let's get this done first. So, apparently your great-great-great-grandfather was accused of sodomy. What? Carl looks up from his phone, his muzzle wrinkling. Yep, with John Bagay, who I'm almost positive is related to Jenna, but I'll have to ask her. Are you serious? How did you find that out? He pauses. And maybe don't ask Jenna about that. From what I can tell, your mom's trying to write a book. Carl strokes his beard. Oh yeah, she is, isn't she? Well, was, more like. I don't think she's worked on it in years. From the looks of it, she started in college. Damn, well, I do remember her saying it stressed her out a lot, or that something happened to make her stop. Carl seems to be thinking. Actually, I think I remember her talking to my dad about how those old things freaked her out, or something. He shrugs. But we've always said the house is haunted. Carl's phone starts buzzing. And speaking of Jenna, she's calling me. Carl looks a bit perturbed, but he puts on a cheerful voice as he answers it. Yo, Williers. Ah, that old name. As he listens to her respond, I see his smile slowly slide off his face. I can hear the sharp, muffled tones of Jenna's voice, even though he's holding the phone on the other side of his face. I guess she cuts him off because he doesn't finish. I glare. Here, let me talk to her. The way Jenna's acted yesterday, which isn't like her at all, is giving me a pretty good idea of what she's going off about right now. Carl doesn't give me the phone though, instead just staring at the windshield as we continue on the highway. Finally, he lowers the phone from his ear, then stares at the screen for a while. She hang up? Yeah, said something about how Leo's depressed now, and how us hanging out by ourselves isn't helping things. I roll my eyes. You know what? Fuck Jenna. She's been on one since Leo's date didn't go the way he wanted it to. For some reason, she just wants to blame you. Yeah. Carl looks out his window, so I can't really gauge the mood he's in. Listen, let's get something to eat first. I'll buy. No, my parents are rich. I'll pay. I can't exactly argue with that, so I don't. I also don't feel like I can leave it at that, so hesitantly, I reach out with a paw and place it on Carl's shoulder. Seriously, let's have fun today, okay? Forget Jenna. He looks over at me and gives me a sad smile. I'm fine, Chase. I just want to get this over with so I can go back and play some games. I sigh. Is that all you think about these days? Hey, lots of people play games for a living. Name one. Rob Lowe. That's a sport. Still a game. I grin as I hear the jokey playfulness back in his voice, glad I'm able to take his mind off of Jenna for the moment. Well, at least that keeps him active. Playing games all day will get you unhealthy. Bat, if you didn't notice, I'm already there. You're not that bad. I swear you're mostly muscle. Then I guess I've got nothing to worry about. But you should get out more. Why? I've got entire worlds in my game. I don't know. What about girls? They're in games too. Well, you can't exactly touch a boob with your actual paws in the game. I don't know. I swear they've got those in anime land. You know what I mean. Already done it. Not that great. You're queer or something? I say it with a southern accent. Let's just say I don't label my sexuality. I let that sit for a second. That's a pretty queer thing to say. Guess I'm a pretty queer dude then. Is that so? Besides, until I'm able to see my hooves again, I don't think any girls are gonna be after me. Well, that's what we're doing right now, trying to give you a new look, a fresh start. It'll boost your confidence and your appeal. You'll have girls and boys after you. Again, Carl doesn't act very enthused about that. I tell myself it's only because he has to go out. Once we get there, I'm sure he'll cheer up. I swear every store in Peyton's Mall is dark and covered in neon. Carl stands there awkwardly, looking around as if unsure about what to do. So, what kind of look do you want to go for? Carl looks at me like I'm crazy. Seriously, dude? I have no idea. You brought me here. Just work with me for the next hour and I promise we'll go to the game store next. Carl makes a big show of sighing, but I assume the twitch in his ears indicates he'd like that a lot. Well, it's just dress clothes, so it shouldn't be that big of a deal. Carl's getting all insecure the way he did during the surprise birthday party. It's kinda cute. Carl? Chase? The voice comes from behind me and Carl smiles over my shoulder before I turn around. Raven? The black and white two-toned husky is just a few feet behind me, grinning. How long has it been? Too long, man. What are you doing here? Family moved back after Dad got fired. Now we work here. I could ask the same about you, Chase. Oh, just on spring break right now. You work in a clothing store now? Raven laughs. No, I'm a store down. I work at the Game Central. Carl perks up at that. So, you're still in school, huh? Well, it's great to see you. Raven's accent is only slightly detectable now, the only noticeable foreign thing about him being his name. So, what are you guys doing here? Getting clothes? Yeah, for Carl actually. He has an interview tomorrow. For some reason, Carl ducks his head at that, and through his ears, I can see him blush deeply. Oh really? It's about time! I mean, I have had a job before. So, what kind of look are you going for? When Carl doesn't answer, I speak up. That's what we're trying to figure out just now, actually. Carl shrinks further into himself, his hat seeming to fall further over his eyes. Dude, it's just dress clothes, really. Well, I think you should get a red tie, at least. Might go good with your eyes, and maybe trim that beard? Since when are you a fashionista? Come on, Carl, let's at least try it out. Carl sighs, rubbing his forehead. Okay, fine, but only as long as we're out of here in the next hour. Hey, I gotta go back to work, but I'll be free in about an hour. Let's catch up. I wave at Raven, then turn to Carl. Well, that was nice. Didn't think I'd ever see him again. Me neither, actually. I'll have to hang out with him more. I mean, I like Flynn, but having to put up with him just to get a ride to the store isn't always worth it. Well, anyway, if you're wanting to get out of here in an hour, then we should probably get started. The process is a lot less painful than Carl makes it out to be. Soon enough, we're on our way to the food court, Carl carrying a bag way too big for the contents inside. We meet Raven again, and once we get our food, he suggests we eat outside. I look from my full combo meal to Carl's small tiny container of tater tots. You're not hungry? Carl just shrugs and grins at me. You just don't know the ways of the fatty. Huh. We're judged all the time, especially when we're eating. He delicately bites a tater tot in half before adopting a sarcastic tone. Ew, gross. Of course he's eating. That seems kind of unfair. See, Raven thinks so too. The husky is in the middle of a huge bite of his Subway sandwich, his eyes on Carl. He swallows before speaking. I can see you're self-deprecating as ever. You know me. So Chase, are you still dating that wolf? Leon? Leo, and no. I ignore the sidelong glance I get from Carl. Ah, sorry about that. You two were really cute together. It's hard to know what to say when people comment on your relationship. If someone isn't homophobic, gay relationships are usually cute or adorable. Or maybe it's just a size difference. But seriously, I've always wanted to date an otter. Oh really? Yeah, they're adorable. Swimming clowns. Do tell. Raven picks up on my sarcastic tone right away, but it doesn't seem to faze him. Well, yeah. You know what they say about otters and blowjobs. Carl almost chokes on his last tater tot. The hell, Raven? You barely know him and you're saying that shit? Carl's laughing though. I'm sure to keep my face passive. Oh? What do they say about otters and blowjobs? Raven laughs. You know, they never have to come up for air. 10 minutes non-stop. Raven giggles, then makes a visible effort to keep a straight face. Sorry, I don't mean to make you uncomfortable. It's just one of those jokes I always hear. You can imagine I do too. And it's 8 minutes, by the way. Psh, I take that too. Carl crumbles up a straw wrapper and flicks it off Raven's bluish-looking nose, to which she simply smiles. Carl stands up. Hey, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. Raven, don't be a dick. I'm not! We both watch Carl amble off before Raven turns back to me, that dopey smile back on his face. So how long are you gonna be here, Chase? We need to catch up. I wonder what catching up means, when our biggest interaction up until this point was dissecting a shark in high school biology. Sunday. School starts up again on Monday. Despite having a head start on the project thanks to Carl's mom, I still get a nervous twinge in my stomach. I still have a lot left to do. Voiceovers, B-rolls, and oh god, editing. We should hang out! His adorable excitement is barely contained, and I'm pretty sure I hear the thumping of his tail against the curb we're sitting on. Despite my earlier offense at his stereotyping of otters, I'm reminded at how much worse dogs can get. They're not common in Echo, or this side of the world for that matter. While otters are thought of as entertainers, I feel like it's better than dealing with being seen as a simpleton. So the main reason I'm here is to do a new segment on Echo for class. Oh, is that gonna be on TV? I laugh. No, I mean, maybe it could get on the rotation of the college TV station, but otherwise, no. Well, that's pretty cool. But my point is that it's kinda boring. What? Is it just a bunch of writing, or...? Mostly going through old stuff. Carl's family saved a bunch of artifacts from the old days. Whoa, so you're like, actually touching old stuff? Yeah, that's kind of a weird way to put it, but yeah. That sounds awesome! His outgoing nature is kind of infectious. I smile. Well, if you're really interested, I wouldn't mind having some help. That's great! I have the next 2 days off. Cool. We'll ask Carl when he gets back. It takes a while for the ram to return, but when he does, he seems a bit reluctant to agree to the idea, which kind of surprises me. But eventually, we convince him and we make plans for Raven to come over the next day. As we're heading back out to the car, I nudge Carl, forcing him into a slight stumble. Hmm? What's up? What do you mean? I try to keep my tone light. You seem a bit down. Actually, you have been all day. Carl shrugs. I nudge him again, and he giggles. I don't know, it's just awkward coming out here and having you two just examine me like that. Oh, yeah? Yeah, dude, it just feels kinda weird, is all. I stay silent for a moment, wondering if I've made the right decision in doing all this. Well, I'm just trying to help you out, you know. I know, bro, it's cool. Seriously, I've been thinking. Your main problem is worrying about going out in public, like a social anxiety. Whoa, now you're sounding like Jenna. We get to my car and he smiles at me over the roof while I unlock the doors. I feel like if we can break through that, it'll help you out a bunch. I break eye contact as we both slide into our respective seats. And I think this job will be a huge part of that, so I really want you to get it. As I lean to the side to pull out my seatbelt, I feel something soft and warm pressed to my cheek. It only lasts for a second, then it's gone. I look over at Carl, but he's looking out the window. Did you just kiss me? Yeah, bro. Are you high? No, I mean, maybe. He giggles. So, yes. Slowly, I pull out of the parking space. If he hadn't made a move on me last night, I might have been a little more shocked. Where the hell did you get high anyway? Alleyway behind the mall. Charming. Yeah, pretty sure I got a few needles stuck in my hooves. We drive in silence for a while, Carl looking out the desert scenery while I squint at the windshield, trying to see through the hazy orange sunset. I didn't mean that, by the way. What? Just thanks. Sure. I don't know what to say as I leave it at that, and we drive along in a pleasant silence. Carl still seems a little sad, and I can't pinpoint why. I'm hoping that it's just a phase. That, and by the time this interview is over, he'll be able to get past his anxiety and finally be done feeling like a failure at everything. I wake up to the feeling of a familiar, numbing heaviness in my body. I try to move, tugging at what feels like a massive weight on my arms and legs, but all I can manage is to wiggle my fingers. It feels like someone's pressing down on my chest, trying to suffocate me. And something's in the room with me. Can't help myself. I open my eyes. A blood-red glow fills Carl's room, as if from a nightlight covered in blood. The sight would have made me whimper if I was able to make any kind of sound. My eyes flick around the room. It looks strangely empty, a lot more empty than I remember it, as if Carl is in the middle of a move and he'd packed up all his toys and decorations. In fact, the only thing I recognize in his room is his bed, the blankets tossed back and empty. I'm alone. I hear a chuckle right next to my ear, and it's straight out of a horror movie. Whatever it is, it's right out of my line of sight, and I can't turn my head to see what it is. My heartbeat picks up, and I decide to close my eyes, knowing that nothing good will come out of opening them. It breathes heavily in my ear for a while, then stops. The weight lifts off my body, and I feel its presence leave. I sit up, open my eyes again, and sigh with relief. But then I realize the room is still empty, and so is Carl's bed. Die. Something yanks me out of the bed, and suddenly I'm being pulled by both feet down the hallway. Down the stairs. Down the basement. Towards a crawl space. Into the darkness. Furry legs crawl all over my body, and pinpricks pierce every inch of my flesh. I'd give anything to be able to scream right now. I gasp and jolt out of my paralysis. I wait a good 10 seconds before I'm convinced that I'm really out of it. Carl snoring loudly in his bed, one arm dangling over the side while his belly rises and falls. I sit up and rub my face, wondering how the hell I'm gonna get back to sleep after that. Friday. And that's where I'm gonna leave it for today. Well, you got to see some new stuff. You got to see the new sprites for Raven, as well as some of the newer sprites for the young TJ and the young Carl. So that's wasn't there in the previous thing that I did. So yay. Anyways, so poor Carl and his social anxiety. And I'm pretty sure a job interview is not gonna make that any better, because I don't know if any of you have had job interview experience, and for me at the very least, it's not like yay job interview, ha ha ha. No, it's like, oh fuck, job interview. I hate it personally. But anyways, thank you all for watching slash listening. If you would like to play Echo yourself, there will be a link down in the description. If you would like to support the Echo project, there will also be a link down in the description. And I suppose that's it for now, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye.